Kababayan LA, it's Talk Tuesday today. Ako po si Janelle So, ang inyong kababayan dito sa Los Angeles. And we have a very special treat for you. We have not one, but two gorgeous and very, very smart kababayan compañeras joining us. They were actually with us last Wednesday. They talked about a very specific case that involves the intermingling of immigration and criminal defense. And today they are here to take your phone call. So if you have any questions about criminal defense that has to do with deportation, immigration and all of that, or if you have any questions about immigration, they are on hand to give you free advice today on Kababayan LA. In a little while, we're going to show you our number. All our phone lines are open, so come and call and get your free advice today. Karina Castañeda and Allison Aquino, hello and welcome to Kababayan LA. First, to remind the viewers, what did we talk about? Padilla versus Kentucky. What is that about again?
It basically says if you have been, didn't have a good attorney representing you in a criminal case, and you specifically inquired about your immigration status and whether if you pled guilty to this charge, especially if it's an aggravated felony, will you be deported? And your attorney says, no, don't worry about it, you won't be deported. The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that is ineffective counsel, and as a result, your guilty plea is now going to be vacated and becomes a not guilty plea. So you start all over again.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And that's a good news. That's good news for people that are in that situation, right, Allison?
Absolutely, because any individual who's had pled guilty to a conviction and is now able to reverse that conviction, then that would render them not subject to deportation from the United States.
Okay, but who will be able to take advantage of this? Like if you pled guilty last year, 2 years ago, and then you weren't advised, you were ill-advised by your lawyer, do they qualify?
You know, that's an interesting question. And one of the Supreme Court justices, Scalia, and Thomas says the same thing. There's going to be what's called the floodgates of litigation. You know, everybody's going to say, hey, I had a bad attorney. My guilty plea should be set aside, and I deserve a new trial, or my case should be reheard again. Now, it's not only, you know, based on, there's a lot of reasons why the criminal courts will set aside a guilty plea. Okay, and we were talking about this just before the show. I mean, one of the things, and I'm sure Allison's really familiar with this, in California there's a law that when you're pleading guilty to a criminal charge, the judge has to advise you that if you're pleading guilty to this charge, you may be deported, excluded from the United States, denied naturalization. Every defendant is advised of this, whether you are a United States citizen or a non-citizen. Okay, and if you have a good attorney looking at your case to see if you can set aside this guilty plea, they'll collect the transcripts and see if the judge advised you of this. Another thing is, if you're not pleading voluntarily or intelligently, meaning for us, for many Filipinos, they don't even know in the criminal arena, you have a right to an interpreter. That's the California Constitution. If you cannot understand what's going on in criminal court, you have a right to an interpreter free at no charge.
Oh, okay. Did you want to add something to that, Allison, in terms of pleading guilty or not guilty if your immigration status is also on the line?
Well, I do. I think the important lesson to be learned is that any individual who is not a U.S. citizen certainly needs to advise their criminal attorney that they are not U.S. citizens.
Oh, some lawyers assume?
Well, their mindset is more on the criminal case and not necessarily on the immigration case. And so it's not that they're making a presumption that they're a U.S. citizen, it's that just their mind is focused on the criminal matter. And so certainly because the immigration consequences are oftentimes much more severe than the criminal consequences, you know, being sent back to a foreign country that you don't know anything about and you haven't been to in a long period of time, that sentence is oftentimes much harsher than being put in jail for a week, 2 weeks, whatever the case may be.
Right, exactly.
Yes, and so any individual who's not a U.S. citizen absolutely should advise their criminal attorney that they are not a U.S. citizen, so that the immigration consequences could at least be dealt with either by the criminal attorney or perhaps with an immigration attorney in conjunction with that criminal attorney.
But speaking of immigration consequences, is it automatic that if you are not a citizen, you're a green card holder, you're an immigrant, and then you are convicted of a crime, then it is automatic that you get deported? Is it?
No, it's not automatic. There are certainly some types of criminal convictions where, in all likelihood, you have no defense from being removed from the United States.
Okay.
And that was the case in the Kentucky, Padilla versus Kentucky case.
Right.
But there are other types of criminal convictions which would subject you to removal proceedings, but you can still, in a way, defend yourself.
Okay. And that is my next question. I guess you can answer that later when we return. If you find yourself in that situation, removal proceedings, do you then need now a criminal lawyer or an immigration lawyer, or do you need both? We'll clarify that when we return. Don't go away.